You're listening to the Digital Deep Dive, where we tackle the newest trends, strategies, and pain points shaping growth across the digital landscape. From Amazon and D2C to international expansion, join our host and e-commerce leaders across multiple industries for in-depth discussions on how to maximize your brands in the digital arena. Now, here's your host, Aaron Conant.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Digital Deep Dive podcast. I'm your host, Aaron Conant, and today got a longtime friend on, Danny Silverman from Silverstream Strategic Consulting. I think a lot of you might know him. You've seen him around, very vocal on LinkedIn, just one of those leading minds that's out there. And we were just catching up on a bunch of things, from Cannes to Prime Day to this idea around AI and how people can use it in their everyday life. And when we're trying to pick apart the topics, like my choice was to dive into some of the AI things that people can use. And Danny here, he's going to explain a little bit about himself, but super successful and has been using these tools that I would love to learn about. So I kind of chose this topic, but we can jump into Cannes and we can jump into Prime Day as well. But anyways, Danny, I'll kick it over to you first. If you want to jump in, background on yourself and
Sure.
what you do, and then we'll jump into the conversation. Sound good?
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for having me back, Aaron. It's awesome. I'm I'm an independent consultant. I've been in e-commerce for over 20 years. I started at Johnson & Johnson, worked my way up through brand marketing, trade marketing, all that good stuff, and then led the J&J's first dedicated e-commerce team. I then was part of a consulting company before jumping over to Clavis Insight, which became Edge by Essential and was eventually wrapped up with One Click Retail, and a bunch of leadership roles there. And then about 4.5 years leading Amazon agencies. So as part of Flywheel Digital, I ran Spotlight, which was a conflict agency within Flywheel. And then I went off and became an independent consultant. I did a full-time project with another leading Amazon agency where I helped reshape their client services team. And now I'm working with clients again on an independent basis and having a blast. Most of my clients are brands who are looking for help with either accelerating growth or turning their business around, Amazon, omnichannel, whatever it is. But I also have some agency clients and I also have some solution provider clients. So that's me.
That's awesome. So I think everybody realized why one of the many reasons that I love Danny and having him on is just the breadth of background. So obviously, if anybody needs help in those areas, look him up on LinkedIn. You can ping me and I'll connect you to him. But so really quick, you said a conflict agency with Spotlight. Is that just for people that are listening? Is that, you have Flywheel, one of the top agencies out there. Was that just when they had conflicts with brands that did they have like a firewall in between?
Yeah, and in Flywheel's early days, they had exclusivity agreements with some of their early clients, and it prevented them from accessing other parts of the market. After Essential acquired Flywheel, they spun up an independent entity with an independent data lake and organizational structure so that it didn't violate any of that exclusivity, but allowed us to work with some other clients in the space. So we sort of operated a little bit quietly alongside Spotlight, but we built up quite a nice set of clients ourselves. And then eventually it was folded back into Flywheel prior to the Omnicom acquisition.
Yeah. Wow. I should reach out to Patrick and have him back on too. That'd be cool. Anyways, let's jump into AI. And I'm going to be doing a lot of podcasts upcoming. I think the one that goes just before this, I'm going to be on Tim Zawazlak. He has a new podcast and we're talking about it. And a lot of that we're talking about is the tools that a brand can use to, maybe it's for on-site search, maybe it's for, going in, instead of having to retag everything in your CDP, you can just have it do an image search instead and just retag it that way. But it was all around a lot of these AI tools that brands are leaning on rather than trying to build internally.
Mm-hmm.
But this is just a little bit different, which is, me as an everyday person, I'm looking for ways to use AI tool sets that are out there, whether it's ChatGPT or Perplexity or whatever it might be. And, this is kind of where we just started chatting. This might be a really cool conversation around you're super successful in this space. You're helping some huge brands and agency. You've got to be highly efficient at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Right. How do you use these tools and what are they? And then how are you seeing, your circle of influence use them, or brands or recommendations around it? This, again, not on this stuff that's going to make my site speed faster or my Amazon detail pages better, but, personal use.
Yeah. And that's what I would love to focus on is like, how do I make you better, or the people who are listening or watching this? How do you use AI to give yourself superpowers? So there's all the buzz out there about just what you said, how you can use it for brands and PEP optimization, everything like that. But a lot of people know how to, okay, I'm going to plug an email in and have AI rewrite it for me. And that's good. Like, at least for those folks who use it that way, you're starting or you're scratching the surface. But for those who haven't even gone in or tried ChatGPT, haven't tried Claude or Perplexity, I just recommend you jump in. ChatGPT is still the largest by far, and continuing to advance every day. There's a free version, literally look for it on the web and go to ChatGPT. And there's a few ways that I use it and a few things you can do just to get started. And what you'll find is that it empowers you, gives you confidence, gives you more just ability to be effective in your day to day. For me, it's a collaborator on a lot of things. I use it on my consulting practice. It helps me with things like drafting proposals, drafting content, I'm working on a business idea, and it's kind of been my partner through the whole thing. I have a completely separate chat going just on that topic that continues to iterate and challenge me, push back, figure out what works, what doesn't work.
So really quick, when you're setting it up then, right, are you creating distinct chats for different topics that you want to do a deep dive on, and then holding those as separate instead of it having just one giant scroll?
Yeah, that was one of the most important things I learned later that nobody reminds you of. But every time you have a new idea, hit the compose button and start a new chat. And that way it'll start a list down the left side of the screen of all of your prior chats. So this morning I went back to something that I talked with, which I was working on 3 weeks ago, and it picked right up where I left off. But you have to start a new chat every time.
So, I mean, it's then you view it as, or would you have people view it as their personal assistant, where you're but it goes beyond that, right? Yeah. Where you're bouncing ideas off it, like literally in real time when you get pulled into like essentially a conversation.
Yes. I mean, I don't use it. I don't tend to use it while I'm in a conversation, because at that point, I always want to be focused in the moment, but I will use it like crazy to prep ahead of a conversation. And so that I'm as educated as possible, and then have my notes up in front of me beforehand.
But when you're rolling through a chat, like we'll say you're coming up, well, you want to hash through I'm just going to make something up here, right? I want to write a new book.
Yep.
So in that scenario, you would go through and you would say, compose a new chat. And you would say, okay, I want to write a book. I want it to be on this topic. And then you're just bouncing ideas off it as it slowly would build this whole thing out, like you're having a conversation with a person.
Yep.
Only. Because I think one of the tough things for people to get over is it's a computer and how we viewed computers forever, right? Like you're on a computer, you're on your phone. It's not an interactive thing per se, right? You're giving it an action and it goes and executes. In this case, like there's a dialogue going back and forth.
There is, absolutely. And it there's a lot made about prompt engineering and prompt writing. I think that's going to get easier over time. So it's like, I don't know that that's going to be like a future career path in and of itself. I think anybody can write good prompts. It's just about being really clear. It's like you're talking to your assistant who does not know your business, doesn't know the book you want to write. And you just, give it very clear. I am Aaron Conant. I'm going to write a book about podcasting, and I'm going to upload transcripts from my last 10 podcasts. I want it written in this tone. I want it to be 10 chapters. And here are the main things I want to talk about. And the more information you give it, the better it'll be. And then it'll spit out the results. And then you can say, okay, but I don't want that section. Add that section, make it more like this. Last night I was iterating on a logo of all things. And every time I iterated on it, I had to re-give it specific instructions. I want the 2 to wrap around the 5. I want the 2 to have a point. And then I need it slightly thinner than the prior version. And then it'll give me the next iterative version. So you can use it for creative that way in the same way as well, as long as your prompts are really clear.
Like literally, so I'm going to take a side note, just personally, what I'm going to do is I should take literally every one of my podcasts, take the transcripts, drop it in, have it create a newsletter for me and use a LinkedIn newsletter. And I put out one of these outside of, I took a month off, I took a break. Right. And so, but outside of that, I produce one of these every week.
Yep. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. Yeah. And you can just
this
upload
is
all of
awesome.
those. You could upload all of those and say, write 10 newsletters and on successive topics, have them all be generated. You and I were talking about before we went live, though, that you also have to make sure that it doesn't sound and look like AI, right? A lot of people, a lot of LinkedIn content has quickly turned into AI garbage. And you can tell whether it's as simple as the prevalence of the M dash or just the words are the way it's written, it's overly formal. So the one thing I would always say though is always proofread, go through line by line and make it your own when it's done. So some of my LinkedIn posts I will start in ChatGPT and then I will take it out when I've got the bullets right and then put it back into my own voice. And I think that's really important so you don't lose your genuine voice in what you're working on.
Right. Have you used it from the fashion of so my we grilled out over the weekend and just put some chicken on the grill, and my dog jumped up and grabbed right
Yeah.
one of the chicken bones, right, drumsticks, and
Yep.
goes and mouths it. You're not getting it out, right? Like it's food. So then I went to Chat GPT and I put in there like, hey, can you help me out? My dog, I have to be concerned. My dog, um, just ate a chicken bone. And it's like, hey, call the vet immediately. Well, I took it one step further and I said, pretend I'm a vet and somebody brought me this dog.
Yep.
And the outcome was different.
Yeah.
Where, okay, check it, pulse, is there anything abnormal, or does the dog just have a bellyache? Like the stomach should be able to take care of the bone and digest it if it's a chicken bone. Like all of a sudden it was completely different where I was using it. But it was just one of those things that clicked. Like maybe I can have it act as a certain persona
Yep.
as well.
Yep, absolutely. One of the biggest aha moments for me early on was like historic or old, what do you want to call it? Concurrent search is based on what's already on the internet, what people already posted on Reddit or Quora or whatever. And a lot of it's scary, especially when you get into medical stuff. ChatGPT takes all of that and contextualizes it and creates almost not original, but a much more contextual response. And to your point, you can give it a persona. You can say you are a top-notch. You're a CMO of the largest marketing company in the world, and I want you to critique my marketing strategy and plan. And here's all the components of it. Or yeah, I mean, you can give it its own persona. My wife is on Instagram. She's a creator influencer, and her name online is Mandylicious. We created a Licious GPT that is trained on all of her content, all of her recipes, her articles, and you can ask, like she answers DMs all day long. But when this thing's ready, you'll be able to go to Licious GPT and ask it, and it'll be like you're talking to Mandy. And it'll be like, that's exactly how we programmed it. You are Mandylicious.
Okay,
blah.
so let's jump into the next level, which is, okay, the GPT. So the baseline, and I know we're talking about Chat GPT, but I think this should overlap. And man, we should do more of these around these new personal assistant AI tools, whatever it might be. But let's stick with the Chat GPT, these LLMs right now. So level one is just putting in there. Next one is anytime you have a new thought. Next level is getting your prompts right. The next level is thinking about it from the standpoint of, hey, who do I want to have the conversation with? And who am I? And what is the content I want? So that's the example of, pretend I'm a vet, a top not vet, tell him I'm a top. Wait, I like what you were saying. And I think from a business standpoint is pretend you're a CMO and critique this. Pretend you're a CFO and critique this. What questions? I'm going into a board meeting with these people at this type of company, and here's the presentation. What would you ask? Yep. Like those are some training things that can have you level up that a lot of people aren't doing. Then we get into like writing your own GPTs. Like, can you walk me through like?
Yeah, I think there's a level before that, which is just uploading your own content or materials to give it more context and information. So like there's very much what you're talking about, which is just back and forth. But then the next thing is what context do you have, whether it's a presentation, whether it's your resume or your LinkedIn, your link to your LinkedIn profile, and you want your resume created. That's sort of also next level. And there's also this concept of like, if you always wanted to answer in a certain way, then you need this training material on how it gets to know you. That's like much higher level. And then to your point, the next level is creating
really quick. I want to try to make sure I get this because I'm learning. I think along with everybody here. It's like, yeah. So one thing is it's just going out to the internet to gather it all in.
Yep.
The next level is actually telling it for the specific task of the information to look at. So
Yes.
part of that is you uploading or you telling it where to go look. Like, here's the information. When I ask you this, here's the body of information I want you to consider, not all this other stuff that's out there.
Exactly. Yep. Exactly. And that'll help provide more specific responses or just kind of contextualize it to whatever you're working on. I would also add one of the most effective responses. I saw this on LinkedIn. Someone suggested, and I use it every time now, is ChatGPT is incredibly flattering and will always say really nice things like, Aaron, what a great question. You're so smart. You always have to challenge it back and say, what am I not thinking of? What's the part that that isn't right? So I'll put something together. I'll work on it for even hours, and then I'll start uploading the versions and say, poke holes in this. What's incorrect? What's missing? How could I make it stronger? And so force it to challenge you, and that makes it even more compelling as well. The results even stronger.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
Now, next level.
Next level. Yeah. Next level, creating a GPT. So this would be if you want to create something for other people, right? So ChatGPT or Perplexity, they'll work for you all day long. They'll get to know you. They'll learn you. Scary or not, knows my wife, knows my kids' ages, all that stuff. But if you want to create something that other people are going to use, I'm sorry, I can't remember his name. There's a former Amazon exec on LinkedIn who posts career stuff all the time. And he created, Ethan is his name. I can't remember his last name, but he created an Ethan GPT. And it's based on hundreds and hundreds of pages of his own writings. And the idea is that you can then ask him, as if you're an Amazon executive, have an Amazon executive critique this, or I'm interviewing with an Amazon executive, and have it kind of practice with you. So that would be the point of creating a GPT, is you want to upload it with a certain set of information and make it available to other people to use.
So it's actually just narrowing down then. So right now, Chat GPT is looking at the breadth, but if you want it to just be Danny GPT, you would take all of your stuff that you've ever, or this Ethan person is a great example as well, but you would, me, Aaron GPT, I upload everything I have from LinkedIn, every webinar I've ever done, every podcast I've ever done, every newsletter I've ever written. I could take all the notes from all the different partners that I've ever talked to and push them in. And then you could talk, and instead of going out to the World Wide Web, right, it's going to go to that specific area and then interact, which would then essentially be me, because everything was written or spoken by me. So it would take on my personality in a way.
It would, exactly. And in our space and by our space, what I mean by that is e-commerce within the world of online retail, particularly, branded manufacturers, the universe, if you say e-commerce, it's that huge world of direct consumer and the long tail of millions of sellers selling, little things on Amazon. The value of creating a GPT like that is you work with the largest brands in the world and some of the most prominent executives, right? And so you'd be training it with a set of material that's unique to, if you just search ChatGPT and said, like, how do I become good at e-commerce? It's going to tell you all about direct consumer and Shopify and whatever. But if I asked Aaron GPT, it's going to be very focused on the world of maybe enterprise companies, enterprise e-commerce, online retail.
Right. No, I got it. Yeah, it'd be finely tuned, and it would take into account, I'd try to have 1,000 brand conversations every year. That's a goal, right? I got to get to 1,000.
Yep.
Part of it is just because I love people and I'm addicted to talking to people, right? That's like, so I love it, but so it's pretty easy to get to at the end of the day. But if I could compile all of that, right, into what are the biggest pain points of people trying to solve for? That's how we get topics for the webinars or the dinners or the full day events we do. But also who's actually working and who's not. You could tap into literally a real-time GPT where people could just jump on and like, I need a new item launch on Amazon. I'm struggling with it. What's the best way to do it? And it would kick out Tim at Product Win, right? Boom.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly.
And then hopefully it would add, tell Tim Aaron said hi or something like that.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah. So I would, a couple of things I would also just mention, on that note, in regular ChatGPT, by the way, all of any seller forums or vendor forums that are in the public domain are basically in its training set. So if you have a question about how to optimize an ad campaign or why a product, I've actually had it analyze product detail pages. I'm like, here's my PDP, here's a competitor's PDP. Why are they doing better on Rufus than I am? So now we're starting to drift into how to use it for business, but it's also just to make yourself smarter and educate yourself along the way too. So there's a lot there. But at the same time, I would always caution, AI is known to hallucinate, right? And it's known to make up information. I'm like, find me 2 case studies on omni-channel, blah, 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 blah. It produced 2 case studies with brands. And I'm like, what's your source for these? And they're like, well, these are compilations from multiple sources. I'm like, so these aren't real. They're like, well, they didn't actually happen. So you have to like be really critical of like, is that fact or is it you just created that information out of a bunch of other information?
One thing I'll add is I would pay the $20 a month, at least for the ChatGPT.
Easily.
Yep. Because I think, so I struggled coming up with like this little background here, right? I created this with DALL-E or ChatGPT, whatever it is.
It's cool.
But before the paid version, I typed in what I wanted and it could not spell it right. And it did not matter. Like I'm literally like, you spelled digital wrong. Can you spell it this way? And it would not do it. I kid you not. As soon as I paid the $20, it kicked it out.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Because you have access to much better models once you're
Okay. Well, yeah.
Yeah.
That
And
makes sense.
And it's getting better literally every day. So something I worked on 3 months ago, I went back to it. We were working on it over the weekend, and I cannot believe, like on the visual side, creative generation, it has gotten significantly better. Google's Gemini is also quite good at that, by the way.
Okay, I haven't signed up for paid versions of like Perplexity or any of the other ones.
I try to keep it simple. Like I know I should as well, but like, part of this too is not to get overly overwhelmed. There are some really cool and fun things out there to help you understand the differences between Claude, Perplexity, and ChatGPT. Some are better for like everyday iteration. There's some that are better for analytics. There's some that's better for creative. So it's worth doing a little bit of research. And like, I don't code, but ChatGPT is not the best for that. There's others that are better for helping you, like if you're going to get into vibe coding or whatever. So just note that each of them has a different personality and a different way that it tends to respond and what it's strong at.
Do you ever, so when I was creating like this background and I was asking, give me 5 versions of this.
Mm-hmm.
And it kicked out 5 versions and I was like, that's not quite right. So I typed in, give me 5 more versions. And it's not quite right. I kept asking it for more. And I got to the point where I was like, I feel bad asking. Like, it's funny because my oldest just there, he's going to be a sophomore in college this year. And he's like, Dad, why do you care? Right? Like, why do you care? I've told this story a couple of times now. And I'm like, because like, I don't know. Like, I'm not, it's like, it's a conversation. I think that's the difference is when you're having a conversation, you're asking like, I would feel bad if I asked, a person to reiterate this thing and give me, 5 different examples for me to crunch through, critique, provide feedback, and do it for 2 hours straight. At some point in time, they would just give me the look like, knock it off, right? But in this case, it will just create it forever. Like, if you ever had that, you're like, should I not ask it? Like,
yeah. No, I know. I absolutely have. I think it was Sam Altman, CEO of OpenAI, who commented a few weeks ago, the amount of money that's being spent on computing power from politeness. So people saying, please, thank you, can you, would you mind? All of that actually creates computing power to process the prompt. And it's like, he's like, cut it out. You don't need to be polite. Drop the please, drop the thank you. Just say, do this, do that, make it this, make it that. You don't need that conversational context. It only slows it down, which I thought was fascinating, but it also kind of released me from this guilty feeling of I'm not, Do I need to be polite? The answer is no.
Man, I seen Terminator. Like, I'm saying please and thank you just in case, right?
Well, now there was some response that said they do tend to get a different response depending on how polite you are. But I guess it depends on what you're going for. Like if you want to feel good and have a feel good conversation with your AI, then yeah, use manners all day long. But if you're just sort of like vibing on something and you got to keep going, I wouldn't sweat the formalities.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And it's going to be nice. Yes, at the end of this all, I mean, it's changing so fast. It's ridiculous.
Oh my gosh, I can't. And I'll tell you what's about to break. I want to say Perplexity launched it over the weekend. Is AI native browsers that will go head to head with Chrome and Safari and Firefox and the rest, Edge, where instead of a basic search engine that has AI responses, it's just going to be AI native search engine, which a lot of ways is how I use it now anyway, but it's going to be specific browsers built for that purpose. OpenAI will come out with theirs in the next couple of weeks, and there's going to be a new race that starts, now for browser superiority. So you talk about how fast it's changing. We're about to see another wave of revolution.
Yeah, and it will be very interesting because what happens with Google, right?
Yeah.
Is for what 20 years now, 25 years, I've been using Google because it's a default. And same thing with Amazon. It's a default that I go there. Yep. Well, rapidly, what's happening now is I'm using ChatGPT over Google. Right now, I'm actually using it more of a search engine. So you give me a browser scenario, I'm probably jumping even more in.
Yeah. When the antitrust lawsuits against Google were happening and some of the first decisions were coming out months and months and months ago, it was like, but who could challenge Google? Like, yeah, it might be, it might have complete control, but there's nothing even close to it. And I would think about like, what would it take to take down Google? And you couldn't even imagine. And then in a matter of months, they lost 50% of traffic and huge amounts of revenue that they were making from linking to news sources or, advertising dollars just evaporated overnight because people moved over to the AIs. It's wild.
Yeah. I mean, then we have the Amazon piece. And have you chatted with like George Westcott and
not recently, but
I was chatting with him around like the same thing. Like, okay, so if people are using that, are these LLMs going to take you to Amazon? Like we go there every day, like to shop because we trained it's the easiest. It's there. It's super easy. But these LLMs, they're not going to care where they go.
Mm-mm.
So he's having very interesting conversations around building marketplaces around specific segments. And if you can train these to go there, then we get into like, who could challenge Amazon? 1,000 different marketplaces that are very, very specific marketplaces that these LLMs drive to rather than driving you to like a Google or an Amazon or, I mean, like, is Apple really going to with theirs? Who knows? Maybe Apple buys. I mean, we just did a webinar about, there was kind of that rumor out there that Apple might buy Perplexity. They better do it.
Yes.
They better do it. And then would they drive you to Amazon? Probably not.
Yeah. I mean, the whole idea of this is where we're getting into agentic AI and agentic shopping. You think about why is there so much traffic to Amazon? Because there's more products there than anywhere else in the world. But if you suddenly sit something on top of that Amazon becomes one possible source, and every other direct consumer, every Shopify site, every big commerce, every retailer in the world even becomes equally likely for your agent to go out and check and look for what you're looking for. Yeah, all of a sudden Amazon feels very neutralized and part of a bigger ecosystem instead of the only answer, which is what we have today. It's wild to think about.
Yeah, and so this is something that came out on that webinar as well. It was with Jordan Brannon over at Coalition Technologies, like one of the masterminds in the SEO space, right? And we were talking about, well, then if you have these, AI SEO or GEO, generative engine optimization, whatever it might be. But so if we get to the point where a majority of the population, or is it a good chunk of it, doesn't have to be a majority, a large percentage of the population is using these personal assistants, including doing shopping. And you then have to train that to go to your website, or if somebody's looking for a specific brand, it goes there. But now it doesn't even, I'm going to call it, instead of headless commerce, faceless commerce, where it's the LLM talking to your website. It's not, you don't need the surface. You don't need the face of it that people interact of that we think is cool. And you click here and hey, it's putting the right stuff. It's literally going, and all it needs to do is connect to your pricing, like your product catalog. Just plug it into your product catalog and your payment portal, because that's all you need. You don't need the rest of the surface. Now you can still have one,
right?
But it doesn't care how pretty your website is at all.
It's true. I will say this. I'll be a little bit of a contrarian. By the way, Scott Wingo, as far as I can tell, is the biggest voice on this topic, and Retail Gentic, his podcast blog. You should check it out. Like, if you want to see where all this is headed.
Oh.
The only thing was that.
Oh no, it's Scott Wingo. Yes. Channel advisor gave me, when I first kicked off, gave me one of my first, when I left Parago, one of my first speaking gigs at his, what do they call it? Down, what was their big conference called?
I don't remember.
Oh, Scott's awesome. I got to ping him.
Cool. Yeah. So what I would just say is, one of the truisms that's always been true of e-commerce, like, why hasn't e-commerce adoption been faster? Because people have always been used to going to the store and shop, right? We live in a bubble of a certain, maybe it's white collar, whatever. The majority of America still goes to Walmart, Dollar General, their local grocery store. They know how to shop in the aisle. And so I'm not saying that agentic shopping isn't coming and faceless commerce isn't coming, but we have to keep in mind that, like, the fundamental human behavior is to look at a physical shelf, and going to an e-commerce site is a barrier. It's like already friction versus just being in a physical store. Removing that visual and just saying, do this for me, is not part of our natural way that we operate today. It could be, and we see it in Star Trek: The Next Generation, how many futuristic movies where they just talk and things happen. That absolutely could be where we're headed, but I don't think it's going to be like a year from now, all of a sudden e-commerce sites have disappeared and everything's just happening in verbal or written chats back and forth with AI. But maybe I'm wrong. I'd prove it. Hopefully, it'd be great if I'm proven wrong, but like, I don't see this massive.
No, I think it'd be great if you're proven right, actually. Yeah. Otherwise, we all just end up like Wall-E.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I hate physical grocery shopping more than probably anybody. Like, it's so hard for me to go to a physical store now, but I don't know how, as much as I consider myself a technology adopter, I don't know how quick I would be to just say, go find this and buy this for me. At least not yet. Oh. Maybe it'll get to a point and my brain will be blown and I'll be like, oh my gosh, now I see how it all works. But it's not as imminent as some people, I think, would make you think.
Yeah, I just gamified it because of the, 4 kids were at Costco a couple times a week. And I set my watch. We have our list. And I set my watch at 12 minutes.
Yeah.
And then we'll walk in there. The wife never likes to have part of this. Like, she just stays at home. She doesn't, she'd rather wander up and down and look at everything in Costco. So I can't take her. It doesn't work with her. I take the kids, like, they know, man, we can get some ice cream after this if we can get out of here in 12 minutes. And so we can break out into 2 separate carts, and you can go down the one aisle that's getting the snacks and the other one back to the fruits and vegetables. You meet back by the paper products and the milk and the eggs, and you buzz up the center and grab coffee and olive oil on your way out.
That's awesome.
It's got to be checking out within 12 minutes. So you can find it enjoyable. You just have to gamify it. Otherwise, you just.
Yeah, absolutely.
Otherwise, it's not fun. Well, this has been awesome. Like, anything like that we missed. That's kind of a silly question. I'll flip it the question a little bit. Like, I've just been picking your brain for a while. Like, any questions you have for me or anything that's like top of mind?
No, I mean, I'll be really interested to see how you make use of AI, and if you create an Aaron GPT or write a book based on all of your podcasts. I mean, I think that'd be really awesome, Aaron.
I mean, I moderate a couple hundred events a year, and few of them we put out on YouTube. We created a channel called Next Up in Digital. Just so we wouldn't have to email out the links. But people could, you get done with the webinar, 2 days later, you can just go out there and rewatch it. Because a lot of people, oh, I missed it, or I forgot this, or can I have the presentation? Just go watch it. I could download all of that. But I think a good one would be just a LinkedIn newsletter that just, it dumps out, proofread it.
Yep.
And then why not like get this in a readable format and have a link back to the podcast for people to listen to, a link out to you like, oh, I need to talk to that guy. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yeah, I started a LinkedIn newsletter. Tomorrow will be issue 8. It comes out once a week called the Weekly E-commerce Review. It's intended for people who feel like they don't have enough time to keep up on the news or don't have enough time to keep up on podcast episodes. And once a week, it's a quick hit digest of the top news in our space, and then any new episodes that have dropped among 15 or 20 of the top podcasts that are relevant. And for what it's worth, I used AI like crazy to figure out, how do I do this? How can I streamline it? I learned Zapier. I learned all these integrations and automated as much of it as I could. But I have a lot of fun, and it's fairly easy to do once you get going. So I would highly encourage you to do it. Okay.
That's on my to-do list. Right. I don't know when it's going to launch. But it's going to be soon. Why not? Why not? Give it a try. I mean, right? Like, who cares? Even if it fails, right? Like, it doesn't.
Isn't that so true of so many things? Like, just do it. What's the worst that's going to happen? Nobody's going to flame you on LinkedIn. No one's going to go, Aaron, this is the biggest piece of garbage I've ever read. Why did you? The first issue I put out had like 20 people look at it, but I got it done and I learned from it and I built on it, and they're getting better and better each time. So you just got to start, and the world will forgive you no matter what. And they'll actually thank you for it at the end of the day.
Yeah. All right. I'm on it. Because of people like you, Dan, encouraging me. Let's go.
Right. Go do
Let's
it. Go.
Well, thanks so much for jumping on this episode of Digital Deep Dive. So cool. I'll let you know. It should just publish in a couple weeks here. And with that, we're going to wrap this episode up. Thanks, my friend. And then thanks, everybody, for listening in.